Orphan boy gives millionaire a broken watch. He fixes it and hears his dead father's voice. David Moore, 70, was a man surrounded by time, yet seemingly untouched by it. His penthouse apartment, overlooking Boston's historic Beacon Hill, was a testament to his lifelong passion: horology, the art and science of measuring time. Antique clocks lined the walls, their rhythmic ticking a constant counterpoint to the city's frenetic pace. Display cases showcased a dazzling array of watches, from intricate pocket watches of the 18th century to sleek, modern chronometers. David was the founder and retired CEO of More Timepieces, a company renowned for its luxury watches, a brand synonymous with precision, craftsmanship, and timeless elegance. He had built his empire from scratch, starting as a young apprentice watchmaker, his fascination with the intricate mechanisms of timepieces evolving into a multi-million-dollar business. But his success had come at cost. His relentless drive, his unwavering focus on his career, had left little room for personal relationships. His marriage had ended in divorce decades earlier, and he had no children. His only close family, his parents, had died tragically in a house fire when he was in his early 30s, a loss that had left a deep scar on his soul. He lived a solitary life, surrounded by his collection, his days filled with the meticulous care and maintenance of his timepieces. He would spend hours disassembling, cleaning, and reassembling the intricate movements, finding solace in the precision and order of the gears, the springs, the escapements. He was a collector, not just of watches, but of memories. Each timepiece in his collection represented a moment in time, a story, a connection to the past. He often found himself lost in thought, reminiscing about his childhood, his parents, the old house in the suburbs where he had grown up, a house that had been reduced to ashes, taking with it a lifetime of memories. He had a particular fondness for antique pocket watches, for their intricate craftsmanship, their historical significance, their tangible connection to a bygone era. He would often hold them in his hand, feeling the weight of the metal, imagining the lives of the people who had once owned them, the stories they could tell. He was a man living in the past, surrounded by the ghosts of his memories, his heart heavy with a grief that time had failed to diminish. His collection was his refuge, his sanctuary, his connection to a world that was lost forever. He was a collector of time, but he was also a prisoner of it, trapped in the amber of his past, unable to move forward, unable to fully embrace the present. He needed someone to break the spell, to release him from the grip of his sorrow, to remind him that life, like time, was always moving forward. On a crisp autumn Saturday, David decided to venture out of his self-imposed isolation and visit the SOA Open Market in Boston's South End. He had always enjoyed the vibrant atmosphere of the market, the eclectic mix of artists, craftspeople, and food vendors, the sense of community and creativity that permeated the air. He wandered through the stalls, admiring the handmade jewelry, the vintage clothing, the colorful artwork. He wasn't looking for anything in particular. He was simply trying to distract himself, to escape the confines of his apartment, to feel a connection to the outside world. As he neared the end of a row of stalls, he saw a young boy, no older than 10, sitting on an upturned milk crate, his meager wares spread out on a tattered blanket. The boy was small for his age, with a thin, pale face, large, soulful brown eyes, and a shock of unruly dark hair. He was wearing clothes that were clearly too big for him, hand-me-downs that had seen better days. He had a collection of old, discarded items, rusty tools, chipped teacups, faded postcards, and a few dusty books. It was a pathetic display, a testament to the boy's poverty, his desperation, his struggle to survive. David, usually oblivious to such scenes, felt a pang of sympathy for the boy. He was reminded of his own humble beginnings, of the struggles his parents had faced, of the importance of hard work and perseverance. He approached the boy's stall, his eyes scanning the collection of discarded objects. "Anything interesting here?" he asked, his voice gruff but not unkind. The boy looked up at him, his eyes wary, his expression guarded. "Depends what you're looking for, mister," he said, his voice quiet but surprisingly mature. "I got some old tools, some antiques." He gestured towards the items on the blanket, his small hand sweeping across the meager display. David knelt down, his knees creaking slightly, and examined the objects more closely. He saw nothing of value, nothing that would interest a collector like himself. But he felt compelled to buy something, to help the boy, to offer some small gesture of kindness. His eyes fell upon a small, tarnished object tucked away in a corner of the blanket. It was a pocket watch, an old, battered pocket watch, its case dented and scratched, its crystal cracked, its hands frozen at a seemingly random time. "How much for the watch?" David asked, pointing to the object. The boy looked at the watch, his expression hesitant. That one's broken," he said. "It doesn't work." "I know," David said, smiling slightly. "But I collect old watches. I like to fix them up." It was a partial truth. He did enjoy repairing old watches, but he hadn't done so in years, not since his parents had died. He was acting on impulse, driven by a mixture of pity and a strange, inexplicable fascination with the broken timepiece. The boy looked at him, his eyes searching his face, trying to assess his sincerity. "I don't know," he said. It was my mother's. She said it was special." David felt a pang of guilt. He didn't want to take advantage of the boy, to exploit his poverty, to deprive him of a cherished possession. "Tell you what," he said, "I'll give you $100 for it. That's more than it's worth, I assure you. But I like to try to fix it. It might have some sentimental value." He immediately increased the price to $500 after he saw the doubt in the boy's eye. The boy's eyes widened at the mention of such a large sum of money. $500. It was more money than he had ever seen in his life. It could buy food, clothes, pay the rent, make a real difference in his life. He hesitated for a moment, his fingers tracing the outline of the watch, then nodded slowly. "Okay," he said. "It's a deal." David pulled out his wallet, the same wallet he always carried, and counted out $500 bills. He handed them to the boy, who took them with trembling hands. "Thank you, mister," the boy said, his voice filled with gratitude. "Thank you so much." He carefully picked up the watch and handed it to David. "My name is Alex," he added, a shy smile flickering across his face. David replied, shaking the boy's hand. "It's a pleasure to meet you, Alex." The market and the memento had become the scene of an unlikely transaction, a moment of connection between two vastly different worlds, a spark of kindness that would set in motion a chain of events that neither the wealthy collector nor the impoverished orphan boy could have possibly foreseen. The broken watch, a seemingly worthless object, was about to become a key, unlocking a past filled with secrets, loss, and the enduring power of a father's love. Back in his apartment, David placed the broken pocket watch on his workbench, a cluttered space filled with tools, magnifying glasses, and spare parts. He hadn't repaired a watch in years, but the skills, the muscle memory, the ingrained knowledge were still there. He carefully examined the watch, turning it over and over in his hands. It was an old, American-made pocket watch, probably from the early 20th century. The case was silver, tarnished and scratched, with a small dent on one side. The crystal was cracked, obscuring the dial, and the hands were frozen at 10:14. He gently pried open the case back, revealing the intricate movement within. He saw the tiny gears, the delicate springs, the balance wheel that had once regulated the flow of time. The movement was dirty, corroded, and clearly damaged. It would take time and patience to restore it to working order, if it was even possible. He began the painstaking process of disassembling the watch, carefully removing each component, cleaning it with specialized solutions, and examining it under a magnifying glass. He found several broken parts, a snapped mainspring, a damaged escape wheel, and a bent pivot. He spent hours working on the watch, his fingers moving with practiced precision, his mind focused on the task at hand. He found a strange sense of peace in the work, a meditative calm that soothed his troubled spirit. It was a welcome distraction from the anxieties of his business, the loneliness of his life, and the lingering grief that still haunted him. As he worked, he noticed something unusual. There was a small, almost imperceptible seam on the inside of the case back, a seam that he hadn't noticed before. He carefully examined it, running his fingernail along the edge. He realized that it was a hidden compartment, a secret space concealed within the watch. His heart began to race. He had seen such compartments before, in antique watches, often used to store a lock of hair, a miniature portrait, or a small love note. He wondered what this watch might contain, what secrets it might reveal. With trembling hands, he used a tiny screwdriver to pry open the compartment. It was a delicate operation, requiring a steady hand and a surgeon's touch. He finally managed to open it, revealing a small, intricately designed mechanism nestled within. It was a recording device, a miniature phonograph, a technological marvel for its time. He had seen such devices before, in museums and private collections, but he had never encountered one in such a small, concealed format. He carefully examined the mechanism, his mind racing. He saw a tiny button almost invisible to the naked eye. He hesitated for a moment, his heart pounding in his chest, then pressed the button. A voice, faint but clear, filled the room. A man's voice, a familiar voice, a voice he hadn't heard in 30 years. "David, my son, have a good life. I love you." It was his father's voice. The voice of the man who had died in the fire, the man he had loved and admired, the man he had never truly said goodbye to. David sank back in his chair, his body trembling, tears streaming down his face. He felt a wave of emotion wash over him, a mixture of shock, disbelief, grief, and a profound sense of connection to his past. He listened to the recording again and again, the short, simple message repeating itself, each repetition etching itself deeper into his heart. He heard the love in his father's voice, the warmth, the sincerity, the unspoken promise of a father's enduring affection. He realized that the watch was more than just a timepiece, more than just a collectible item. It was a message in a bottle, a time capsule, a tangible link to his past, a testament to the enduring power of love and memory. The mechanism of memory had been activated, unlocking a flood of emotions, a torrent of memories, a renewed sense of purpose. The broken watch had become a symbol of hope, a catalyst for change, a key to unlocking the secrets of his past and finding his way back to a future he had thought was lost forever. The voice of his father, faint but clear, had broken through the silence of years, offering a message of love, a message of hope, a message that would change David's life forever. Alex lived in a small, overcrowded apartment in a rundown building in East Boston, a world away from the luxury and privilege of David's Beacon Hill penthouse. He shared the apartment with several other orphans, all under the care of Mrs. O'Malley, a stern but kind-hearted woman who ran the orphanage with limited resources and a fierce determination to protect her charges. Alex had been at the orphanage since he was 5 years old. He had no memories of his parents, no photographs, no tangible connection to his past. He had been told that he had been found wandering alone near the docks, a lost and frightened child with no identification, no one to claim him. Mrs. O'Malley had taken him in, given him a name, and raised him as best she could, along with the other orphaned and abandoned children under her care. She had taught him to read and write, to be honest and respectful, and to never give up hope. Alex was a quiet, introspective boy with a natural curiosity about the world and a talent for drawing. He spent hours sketching the people and places he saw, capturing the details of their lives, their struggles, their moments of joy and sorrow. He had found the broken pocket watch a few weeks earlier, while rummaging through a box of donated items at the orphanage. The box had contained a jumble of old clothes, broken toys, and discarded trinkets. He had been drawn to the watch, to its intricate design, to its air of mystery. He had shown it to Mrs. O'Malley, who had told him that it was probably worthless, that it was broken and beyond repair. But Alex had been fascinated by it, had spent hours trying to fix it, to make it work again. He had a natural aptitude for mechanics, a knack for understanding how things worked, a gift that had gone largely unnoticed in the overcrowded and under-resourced orphanage. He hadn't been able to fix the watch, but he had kept it, carrying it with him everywhere, a talisman of his unknown past, a symbol of hope, a connection to a world beyond the confines of the orphanage. He had started selling old items at the SOA open market a few months earlier, a way to earn a little extra money, to contribute to the orphanage, to feel a sense of independence and purpose. He had found a market to be a vibrant and exciting place, a window to a world beyond his limited experience. He had never imagined that the broken watch, the seemingly worthless object he had salvaged from a box of discarded junk, would lead him to a wealthy millionaire, would connect him to a past he had never known, would open up a world of possibilities he had never dared to dream of. Alex's past was a mystery, a blank slate, a void waiting to be filled. He had no memories of his parents, no family history, no sense of belonging. He was a blank canvas, a story waiting to be written, a life waiting to be discovered. He had a few meager possessions, but they are old things with no history. The broken watch had become a symbol of that mystery, a tangible link to his unknown origins, a key that might unlock the secrets of his past and reveal his true identity. He didn't know it yet, but his life was about to change forever, his path about to intersect with that of David Moore, a man who shared a connection to that past, a man who held the key to unlocking the secrets of the watch and the secrets of Alex's own identity. David, after hearing his father's voice on the recording, was consumed by a need to understand the watch's origins, to trace its history, to find out how it had ended up in the hands of a young orphan boy in Boston. He knew that the watch had been in his family home, the house that had burned down 30 years earlier. He had assumed that all of their possessions had been destroyed in the fire, that nothing had survived the inferno. But the watch's existence proved otherwise. Someone had salvaged it from the ruins, and that someone, somehow, was connected to Alex. He started by revisiting the site of his childhood home, a suburb just outside of Boston. The original house was long gone, replaced by a modern, sterile structure that bore no resemblance to the warm, welcoming home he remembered. He spoke to the current owners, a young couple who had bought the property a few years earlier. They knew nothing about the fire, nothing about the previous owners, nothing about a watch. He then contacted the local fire department, requesting the records of the fire, hoping to find some clue, some detail that might shed light on the watch's survival. The records were incomplete, damaged by time and water, but he found a list of salvaged items that had been recovered from the wreckage. The list was short, mostly charred remnants of furniture, a few melted pieces of jewelry, and some damaged photographs. But there, at the bottom of the list, was an entry that made his heart skip a beat. One silver pocket watch, damaged, contents unknown. It was the watch. It had been found. But who had found it? And how had it ended up with Alex? He contacted the police department, hoping to find records of the investigation into his parents' deaths. He learned that the fire had been ruled accidental, caused by faulty wiring. There had been no suspects, no evidence of foul play. He spoke to the firefighters who had responded to the blaze, the police officers who had investigated the scene, but they remembered little about the specific details. It had been 30 years, a lifetime ago. They offered their condolences, their sympathy, but they could provide no new information. He felt frustrated, discouraged, but he refused to give up. He knew that the answer was out there, somewhere, hidden in the fragments of the past, waiting to be discovered. He decided to focus on Alex, on the boy who had unknowingly returned a piece of his past, a piece of his heart. He arranged to meet with Mrs. O'Malley, the director of the orphanage, hoping to learn more about Alex's background, about how he had come to possess the watch. Mrs. O'Malley was a kind, compassionate woman, but she could offer little information. She told him that Alex had been found wandering near the docks, that he had no identification, that no one had ever come forward to claim him. She had no knowledge of the watch, other than what Alex had told her. "He's a good boy, Mr. Moore," she said, her voice filled with genuine affection. "He's had a hard life, but he's resilient, he's kind, and he has a good heart. He deserves a chance, a real chance." David nodded, his heart aching for the boy, for the life he had lived, for the hardships he had endured. He was more determined than ever to uncover the truth, to find the connection between Alex and his family, to unravel the mystery of the watch. The search for answers was a journey through the fragmented remains of his past, a quest to piece together the shattered pieces of his family history. It was a journey filled with frustration, with dead ends, with moments of despair. But it was also a journey fueled by hope, by determination, and by the enduring power of a father's love, a love that had transcended time and tragedy, a love that was now reaching out to connect with a young boy who held the key to unlocking the secrets of the past. David's investigation continued, a relentless pursuit of the truth, driven by a mixture of grief, guilt, and a growing sense of connection to Alex. He hired a private investigator, a specialist in tracing lost family histories, to help him uncover any possible links between Alex and his own family. He spent hours poring over old photographs, letters, and documents, searching for any clue, any hint, any forgotten detail that might shed light on the mystery. He revisited his memories of his parents, of their lives, of their friends and acquaintances, trying to reconstruct the events leading up to the fire, trying to find a connection to Alex. The private investigator, after weeks of painstaking research, digging through archives, interviewing former neighbors, and tracking down old records, finally made a breakthrough. He discovered that David's parents had employed a housekeeper, a young woman named Maria Rodriguez, who had worked for them for several years prior to the fire. Maria had been a kind, gentle woman, deeply devoted to the Moores, particularly to David's mother, Eleanor. She had been more than just a housekeeper. She had been a friend, a confidant, a member of the extended family. The investigator also discovered that Maria had a daughter, a young girl named Elena. Elena had often visited the Moore household, playing in the garden, helping her mother with her chores, and forming a close bond with Eleanor. The record showed that Maria had left the Moore's employment a few months before the fire, due to a family emergency. She had returned to her hometown, a small village in Mexico, and had seemingly disappeared from their lives. David remembered Maria vaguely. He recalled her warm smile, her gentle demeanor, her quiet presence in their home. He remembered his mother speaking fondly of her, expressing concern about her well-being. He felt a surge of hope, a growing sense of certainty that he was on the right track. He asked the investigator to find Maria, to track her down, to discover what had happened to her and her daughter. The investigator, using his network of contacts, managed to locate Elena, Maria's daughter. She was now living in Boston, working as a nurse's aide at a local hospital. She was married, with 2 children of her own. David arranged to meet with Elena, his heart pounding with anticipation and trepidation. He met her at a small cafe near the hospital, a neutral ground where they could talk openly and honestly. Elena was a kind, compassionate woman with a warm smile and gentle eyes that reminded him of her mother. She listened patiently as David told his story, his voice choked with emotion, his hands trembling. She then shared her own story, a story of loss, of resilience, and of a mother's unwavering love. She told him that her mother, Maria, had died a few years after returning to Mexico, succumbing to a long-standing illness. Before she died, Maria had told Elena a secret she had kept hidden for many years. She had told her about the fire, about the watch, about the child she had rescued from the flames. She had been visiting the Moore's house that night, unexpectedly, to deliver a letter from Eleanor's sister. She had arrived just as the fire broke out, had seen the flames engulfing the house, had heard the screams from within. She had rushed inside, desperately trying to help, but the smoke and flames had been too intense. She had managed to find a small, unconscious child near the back door, a child she had initially believed to be David. She had pulled the child to safety, carrying him away from the burning house. She had later realized that the child was not David, but a boy who resembled him, a boy who had been visiting the Moores that night. She had tried to find the boy's parents, but she had been unable to locate them. She had kept the boy with her, caring for him as best she could, intending to take him to the authorities the next day. But then she had seen the news reports about the fire, about the death of David's parents, about the assumption that David had also perished in the flames. She had been terrified. She had been an undocumented immigrant, living in fear of deportation. She had believed that if she came forward, she would be blamed for the fire, that she would be separated from the child, that she would be sent back to Mexico. She had made the agonizing decision to keep the boy, to raise him as her own, to give him a new name, a new identity, a new life. She had named him Alex, after her own deceased brother. She had told him stories about his mother, weaving a narrative of a loving parent lost too soon, careful never to reveal the truth of his origins. She kept the watch, found clutched in the boy's hand, as a memento, a reminder of the night that had changed their lives forever. Elena handed a small, worn photograph to David. It was a picture of Maria holding a young Alex in her arms. The boy in the photograph was wearing a small, silver pocket watch on a chain around his neck, the watch that David now held in his hand. The connection was undeniable. Alex was not his son, but he was a child whose life had been inextricably linked to his own family's tragedy. He was a child who had been saved by a courageous woman, a woman who had risked her own safety to rescue him from the flames. He was a child who deserved to know the truth, to understand his past, to have a future free from the shadows of uncertainty. Uncovering the connection had been a journey through the labyrinth of the past, a painful but necessary exploration of loss, grief, and the enduring power of human kindness. The truth was not what David had expected, but it was a truth that offered a different kind of hope, a different kind of family, a different kind of future. The revelation of Alex's true origins and his connection to the fire that had taken David's parents brought a complex mix of emotions for both of them. While they weren't father and son, the shared tragedy, the watch, and Maria's selfless act created a profound bond. David, initially disappointed that Alex wasn't his biological child, quickly realized that the connection they shared was just as significant, perhaps even more so. He had found a living link to his past, a boy who had been touched by the same tragedy that had shaped his own life. He felt a responsibility towards Alex, a desire to honor Maria's memory by ensuring his well-being. Alex, in turn, was grappling with a new understanding of his identity. He had always felt like an outsider, a child without a past. Now, he had a story, a history, a connection to a family he had never known. He also had to reconcile the image of his loving mother, Elena, with the reality of Maria's deception, however well-intentioned. David approached the situation with sensitivity and respect. He understood that he couldn't simply step into Alex's life and claim a parental role. He had to earn his trust, to build a relationship based on mutual understanding and affection. He didn't pressure Alex to call him father or to change his name. He simply offered his support, his friendship, his guidance. He started by spending time with Alex, getting to know him, learning about his interests, his dreams, his fears. He helped Alex navigate the complexities of his newfound history, explaining the circumstances of the fire, the lives of his parents, and the courageous act of Maria. He shared memories of his own childhood, of his parents, of the home that had been lost. He also addressed Alex's immediate needs. He helped him find a better living situation, a small but comfortable apartment in a safe neighborhood. He ensured that Alex had access to quality health care and educational opportunities. He encouraged Alex's artistic talents, providing him with art supplies and arranging for him to take lessons from a renowned local artist. He saw in Alex a spark of creativity, a passion for drawing that reminded him of Eleanor, his late wife. David was careful not to impose his own values or expectations on Alex. He respected his independence, his resilience, his unique personality. He understood that Alex had his own path to follow, his own dreams to pursue. He also made it clear to Alex that Elena was, and always would be, a cherished member of their extended family. He recognized the profound bond between Alex and Elena, and he honored the love and care that Elena and her mother had provided. The relationship between David and Alex evolved gradually, organically, from a tentative connection to a deep and meaningful bond. They became friends, confidants, and eventually something akin to family. David found a renewed sense of purpose in his life, a sense of fulfillment that had eluded him for decades. He had found a connection to his past, a way to honor the memory of his parents and his wife, and a chance to make a positive difference in the life of a young man who had touched his heart in a profound way. Alex, in turn, found a sense of belonging, a security, and a support system he had never known. He had a family, a history, and a future filled with possibilities. He had found a mentor, a friend, and a father figure in the man who had once been a stranger, a man who had been brought into his life by a broken watch and a shared tragedy. Acceptance, not ownership, was the foundation of their relationship, a bond built on mutual respect, understanding, and a shared journey of healing and growth. Time passed, measured not by the ticking of expensive watches, but by the milestones of a newly formed family. Alex, with David's support and encouragement, flourished. He excelled in his studies, his artistic talent blossoming under the guidance of his mentor. He eventually earned a scholarship to a prestigious art school, his dreams of becoming a professional artist taking flight. David, having stepped back from the day-to-day operations of his company, devoted his time to philanthropic endeavors and to nurturing his relationship with Alex. He became a regular presence at Alex's art exhibitions, beaming with pride as he watched the young man he had come to consider his son navigate the art world with confidence and grace. David supported Alex to con more about Elena's family, and Alex accepted them as his family members. He also remained close to Elena, recognizing her as an integral part of their extended family. He respected her as Alex's sister, and he appreciated the sacrifices she and her mother had made. The broken pocket watch, once a symbol of loss and mystery, became a cherished family heirloom, a reminder of the extraordinary circumstances that had brought them together. It was no longer kept in a display case, but rather carried by Alex, a tangible link to his past, a symbol of hope, and a testament to the enduring power of human connection. David never remarried. His love for Eleanor remained a constant presence in his life, a cherished memory that he held close to his heart. But he was no longer alone. He had found a new family, a new purpose, a new reason to embrace life with joy and gratitude. Alex eventually became a successful artist. He held an exhibition, and David proudly introduced him to everyone. He told everyone that Alex is his family, and he loves him very much. The future forged by the broken watch and the orphan boy was not a perfect future, but it was a future filled with love, with hope, with a deep appreciation for the preciousness of life and the enduring bonds of family, however unconventional its form. The millionaire had not simply adopted an orphan. He had embraced a new way of living, a life defined not by wealth or status, but by connection, compassion, and the enduring power of the human spirit to heal and to grow, even in the face of unimaginable loss. The ticking of the clocks in David's collection still marked the passage of time, but now they also echoed the rhythm of a new heartbeat, a new family, a new beginning.